This is something that we've all discussed as a team for the last month, in small groups for the last 6 weeks. I mean, this is, everything that we've kind of done really for the last, I guess it'd be 2 months since All-Star break. We got back from All-Star break, has been about getting ready for the playoffs and talking about what is different about the playoffs. There's been times that Marco's added some things, I've added some things, Amir's added some things. So, it's been a discussion. There hasn't been like a formal talk or anything other than Brett yesterday.
What is it about this team that makes them ready over the last few months? What do you see from them that makes some of these guys who haven't been in the playoffs ready?
I think first of all, demeanor. Ben specifically is not really affected by pressure. I think he, at least from what I've seen over the last 6 months, always sort of rises to the occasion. There's a competitive juice that he has for big games, and he takes things personally. He cares. He wants to win. Those are all attributes that will serve him well in the playoffs. Cove, I think it's hard to describe Cove because he there's almost like a mental block where it's just always next play. And I think in the playoffs especially, you're gonna have a lot of stuff that goes wrong and things get amplified in the playoffs, and you have to be able to move on to the next play. And Markelle just doesn't know any better, Markelle's just, for all the guys, I think there's a certain advantage. I said this yesterday. There's a certain advantage to being naive and being green. And again, the greatest sort of lesson you can have is actually doing and not just listening and learning. And so if you were in a science class and you just listened to the professor all day and never actually got to go to the lab, it wouldn't be very useful. So this is the lab time.
Marco was saying that he thinks that you guys should kind of forget your 16-game winning streak heading into
this.
No
question. Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think that's great wisdom from a 19-year-old.
No, Marco.
Oh, Marco. I think you said Markelle.
Maybe he thinks the same. We can bring him over and ask him.
Marco's my age, so no. I think that's great. I agree. I mean, listen, everything gets reset. I was asked the other night about momentum going into the playoffs, and I've seen it work two ways. I was on an Orlando team that completely struggled the second half of the season. We were missing our starting point guard who made the All-Star team that year. We didn't have any momentum. We started off first round down 2-1 against Philly, and we made the finals. And then I was on an Orlando team that I think we won our last 11 regular season games, swept the first 2 rounds, and then got blitzed in the conference finals by Boston. So it works two ways. It's all about the matchup, and really for us, it's about Miami. They have our undivided attention.
How does the offense change when Joel went out? How did it change? And how were you guys still so successful without him?
The pace went up. That's probably the biggest thing. We have a unique advantage over most teams in that we have a guy who you can throw the ball to on the block, and he can go get a bucket and make passes out of it. Without him, we had to play faster. So the spacing's a little different. We've probably had more minutes with 5 shooters on the floor than we had prior. So Ersan, Dario at the 4 and 5, and Cove a little bit at the 4, which he hasn't played much for at all this season. And that has allowed Ben to just play in space. And again, I don't think Ben's scoring numbers have gone up, but his assists have gone up because he's creating a disadvantage with all the space, and teams have to react to that, and our shooters have benefited from that.
You said yesterday the defensive rebounding was an emphasis over the last.
Say that again.
You said yesterday the defensive rebounding was an emphasis over the last couple of weeks. You guys, the rebounding's actually gotten a little better without Joe and small sample and all like that.
Yeah.
What specifically have you guys done in that?
So there's a few things we talked about if you're a guard and your guy is not going in for the offensive rebound. So teams now, for the last 10 years, they basically just send guards back. There's not a lot of guards who crash the board. So if you're a guard, to really just go seek out a big and double team him, essentially. The big's job is to sort of find their man and body up, and then the guard's job is to sort of go tag team somebody, wedge a guy underneath, or just, you know, if a roll is coming on a long two, like to just go hit the guy as he's rolling. So that's really one thing. And then the other thing we talked about, which this is the hard part, I think, is just like on a long rebound, like as you're going to contest and back, as opposed to contest and leak out. And it's just, you know, your momentum's carrying you that way, so it's sometimes hard. But those are pretty much the two main emphasis we talked about the last few weeks.
Thank you, JJ.
All right, thanks, guys.